know that Africa is the place where the body of the first man was found? My daddy says that makes it the place where all people originated from. I'm from Africa, you from Africa, you African booty scratcher.
We make niggas disappear like that triangle by Bermuda. They can't find his body, but they know that I'm the shooter. I say cut my sentence in half, and I'll spread a little rumor. Damn, well you can look in Oklahoma if you want to find them sooner.
Yeah. What it do, what it do, what it do, what it do. Back for another classic in the history book or the book of the SGI of the Strictly Ghetto Engine. Back for another classic. And this chapter is called Black Americans Found in America Before Europeans. Olmecs, El Negro. Fire, 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 fire. And what make it so fire is that we have a European, a historian, somebody that does research. Well, I really don't know if he is a historian. He got a YouTube page and he giving it up. It seems like that. He's into the historic facts. He's into Historia, history, and we're gonna see what he got to say. I definitely thought it's gonna be interesting. I don't know if the folks already seen it, but says there's more information coming out, more evidence coming out confirming that Black people was found in America and that Black people was here in America before Europeans. Now we have some Europeans in the year 2025 saying that just like the Europeans were saying it back a long time ago. But I guess the people gonna call these people pseudo also. I guess they gonna call them pseudo also. But it looks like that term is just like a short term type term. Like it ain't nothing that's last long, and because with more evidence, more scientific. I just seen something as far as on the scientific side where they was talking about now they got more oldest bones, but now they in Morocco. Yeah, now they in Northwest Africa, not older in East Africa. Now they say they got some new bones. So it's always gonna be something new. They probably always hiding something else, and they always, trying to say they discovered something, uncovered something, and it just being tucked away. But definitely pull up, grow up. I'm so glad that you showed up. To comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend, and do it again. Just to get to it. Just a little 15-minute video. Like I said, I thought it was interesting because he gave it up. And I think more people in the future is going to be giving it up.
Olmecs are. They are Mesoamerica. So if you don't know who the Olmecs are, they are Mesoamerica's most ancient and mysterious civilization. They gave birth to the Mesoamerican calendar, writing, and megalithic stonework. They arrive in the historical record as a fully formed civilization, seemingly out of nowhere, and erect the largest monuments that Mesoamerica would ever see at the very beginning of time. And before you ever venture off into the Olmec heartland, the only thing you can think of when anyone mentions the Olmecs are the colossal basalt heads, weighing anywhere from 6 to 52 tons. But once you explore the Olmec realm on foot, you begin to realize that there is so much more out there to be seen and uncovered. One of the first things that I saw at the site of La Venta are these scattered basalt columns used to erect something that most people have probably never seen before, which I call column tombs. They kind of look like Lincoln logs, and these were probably brought in shipments by the dozens from the Sierra de la Tuxtla Mountains of Veracruz, over 90 kilometers away. But of course, no body has ever been found in these column tombs. And granted, that may be because the acidic soil erodes everything away, leaving nothing for archaeologists to find over 3,000 years later. But it's still a mystery. I took measurements of these basalt columns, some of which had been smashed or broken apart or had fallen, and I did a calculation that gave me an estimate which put the average column anywhere from around 2 to 7 tons. But some were, of course, much larger than this, sometimes more than twice as large. Now, it seems that not all of these basalt columns were being used for assembling tombs. We can really only speculate as to what the other uses were for, but some people have proposed that they were used for encircling ceremonial or exclusive areas, or even acting as stone fences or walls with the limited evidence that we have, which is almost none. The use of these columns in their entirety is still a mystery. Like I was saying earlier, some of these columns are actually twice as large and twice the length of a standard column. This one here is about 12 feet tall, putting it somewhere in the range of 13 to 15 tons. While this fallen column, measured to be about 20 feet long, is perhaps somewhere around 20 tons. And you have to keep in mind that in all
Hey Joe, what are you doing here on a weekday? You didn't call.
likelihood the Olmecs were transporting multitudes of these all at once, which might actually be a bigger feat than transporting one single head at a time, which is just simply amazing. The next surprise was the tall stele standing out in front of the Great Pyramid of La Venta. Now, the pyramid itself is not made of stone, of course, it's packed earth, but it's composed of about 200,000 tons of earth and fill. Now, just imagine the kind of organization and wealth that it takes to commission a structure of this size, while you're also commissioning thousands of tons of basalt from over 90 kilometers away, as well as hundreds, if not thousands of tons of jade and serpentine stone from deep within the jungles of Guatemala. These were powerful people to be able to erect huge 15-foot tall monuments at the base of their pyramid. Now, do we have any idea as to what the meaning is behind the artworks found on these stelae and anywhere else in the Olmec world? Well, not really. Almost all of the context which gives us meaning towards the Olmec monuments is completely lost. The Olmecs are a truly lost civilization whose names we don't even know. We only call.
Got another situation where they extinct, these people is lost. But then some people try to show me that there was some Mayans still there today. The descendants still there today. The Mayans still in that same area. In this area, they say, oh yeah, it was disease. Everybody died. Everybody got shipped away. But they descendants is still there in the same area. Stop it.
All in the Olmecs because that is the name that the Aztecs, who spoke to the Spanish conquistadors in the early 1500s, named the people who were farming rubber in the Olmec area 3,000 years after the time of the colossal heads. The term Olmec in the Aztec language means rubber people, or people from the land of rubber. But what this civilization actually called itself, we have no idea. It far, far predates even the Maya. As I was leaving La Venta, I came across something that I didn't even know existed, a small Olmec head. Only 10 of these heads have been discovered in the Olmec world, and of those 10, I only saw 2 in person and have been able to find only very few photos of them. Of the 2 that I've seen in person and the few that I've seen in photos, it seems that all of these small heads do not represent actual people in the same way that the colossal heads do. These small heads seem to represent what we call the were-jaguar, which causes an interesting conundrum. On one hand and one half of Olmec society, we have these giant basalt heads that are being erected, which are certainly portraits of living, breathing kings or very important men within Olmec society. But on the other hand, this more unseen side of the Olmec world is this were-jaguar, these shamanic people who present themselves as being fused with the vital essence of a jaguar. And these were-jaguars do have stone heads, but they're much, much smaller than the larger human heads. So we have an interesting conundrum here, especially after I share with you what I found just a few minutes after this. After visiting the archaeological site of La Venta, we stopped by La Venta's museum, which is something you would hardly call a museum. It was more like a large building with a metal roof, where all of the monuments from the archaeological site were moved to protect them from being further eroded. And when Dr. Barnhart and I walked in, we stopped, looked at each other, and we were both absolutely floored by what was standing right in front of us. 3 colossal limestone heads, much larger in size than any of the basalt heads. All 3 were highly eroded, and you could tell that they did not depict a human, but rather they were the were-jaguar. With the right information, you could potentially find photos of these were-jaguar heads on the internet, but if you didn't already know these heads existed, you would never find them. My estimations of these heads, which are around 5 feet wide, 4 feet deep, and around 11.5 feet tall, come out to be somewhere in the ballpark of 15 tons, maybe more. But we now have 15 known basalt heads representing figures that we can definitively say are fully human, as well as 3 huge limestone heads that represent figures that we can definitively say are were-jaguars. Shamanic crossovers between a human and a jaguar. Which makes me curious if there's some kind of correlation here between the status of a human as well as the material used to depict that person. Why do we not find limestone heads of humans and basalt heads of were-jaguars? We do see small basalt were-jaguar heads, but they are never larger than the king's heads. There's certainly something here, but the Olmec knowledge behind these reasonings are just lost to us, and it's a puzzle just waiting to be assembled. It's thought that this raising the staff symbolism may indicate this figure's authority, rulership, or his priestly and shamanic power. This figure here, although he's eroded quite badly, may also have the downturned lips of the were-jaguar. Sometimes this staff or scepter was held by the were-jaguar shaman as a sign of his divine power. We also see above him what are thought to be Olmec ancestors, perhaps guiding the Olmec civilization. One thought is that these ancestors may be engaging in combat of some kind, as it looks like they also have scepters or staffs in their hands, cocked back in a fighting position as they face towards each other. But if this is the case, it's actually the only depiction of violence and warfare in the entire Olmec world. As far as I know, in all of the Olmec realm, we have no evidence of violence or warfare of any kind. Within a few days, we arrived in a small remote village called San Lorenzo Tenochtitlan to see the artifacts that were removed from the archaeological site with the same name. Not many gringos ever visit this town, and the most recent visitor on the Ledger forum was from 4 months earlier. All of the villagers came out with little trinkets and popsicles for us to buy, and it's at this tiny museum, if you can call it that, where you'll see some of the Olmec's strangest monuments. As I walked through the gate, laying on the ground right next to this Volkswagen was a fallen basalt column that supposedly had been found in the Red Palace within the archaeological site. Now, this brings up an interesting question because Olmec architecture is supposed to have been comprised solely out of packed earth, just like the mounds we see in the United States. But these Olmec mounds had the added element of megalithic single-pieced columns and giant monuments sitting upon them, which makes imagining what Olmec architecture actually looked like extremely difficult. When we went to the archaeological site, which is really just a huge empty field where you can see the remnants of buried earthen structures beneath the ground, I went over to where the Red Palace is supposed to have been and went walking around looking for where these basalt columns would have been placed in the ground. I mean, they're considerably thick, so I thought that maybe I would see some kind of indention in the ground and I could find a pattern, and I had no luck until I almost broke my leg by falling in one of the column holes. From what I could determine at the site, these absolutely gigantic basalt columns lined the central staircase leading up to the upper palace floor, and the groove on top of the column tells me that lintel beams, whether they were made of basalt or wood, were also placed on top of them to hold up a wooden and thatch roof. But where these other dozen or so columns are, I have no idea, and I can't find any data on it either. About 40 feet from the basalt column was a rectangular basalt slab about 10 by 12 feet. The locals didn't know what to make of it, but presumed it might have been a tool sharpening block, at least at some point in time. Well, I highly doubt that its original purpose was intended to be a giant stone sharpener. But early archaeology was pretty hasty about removing treasure and impressive monuments from their original location without properly documenting all of it first. But perhaps I shouldn't be too harsh on just archaeologists, because we do know that cultures thousands of years after the Olmecs also tampered with and were curious about these sites as well, with some of them even recreating their own smaller versions of the Olmec heads. Standing near this basalt slab was something that seemed to be an unfinished basalt head or perhaps a large altar, although I couldn't make out any distinctive telling features. One of the more surprising finds was this limestone bird statue, which I felt resembled some kind of obscure Egyptian limestone statues that I've seen lining the temples in Egypt. The detailed work in the wings was amazing, and I can only wonder what the head would have looked like or what species this was intended to be, but my thought is, with the long tail, maybe this is actually the first stone depiction of the sacred Quetzal bird in ancient Mesoamerica. I also found this depiction of what looks like a gear or some kind of clock on the bottom of a broken slab of basalt. Traditionally, the concept of gears or dials is supposed to have originated in Greece and Persia, which makes this artifact very confusing. Even now, I can hardly find any reasonable archaeological explanation for this artifact. It's just completely a mystery. One of the most thought-provoking artifacts I found while in the Olmec heartland was the El Negro monument.
He said thought-provoking.
One of the most thought-provoking artifacts I found while in the Olmec heartland was the El Negro monument on display at the Tres Zapotes Museum. This megalithic tenon head looks unambiguously African, and I'm very slow to ever say that the Olmec heads look like they're African because I've seen so many people in the Olmec realm who look exactly like the Olmec heads. But El Negro really stands out and fits its name. Now, I'm always very dubious, and I cast a weary eye on theories about pre-Columbian contact between the Americas and the Old World civilizations, especially when it involves contact back and forth. However, I'm very, very open to the idea of many different cultures discovering the Americas prior to Columbus. I think that this was something that was happening all the time, and every so often we get just a slight window into this evidence. And I'm open-minded about the fact that this El Negro monument perhaps is evidence of ancient Africans stumbling into the Americas and being introduced into Olmec society. And perhaps this is, for
Let me bring that back.
lack of a better term, perhaps is evidence of ancient Africans stumbling into the Americas and being introduced into Olmec society. And perhaps this is, for lack of a better term, a cameo of ancient Africans in the Olmec realm. But when it comes to people arriving in the Americas, I'm very dubious as to whether or not they were able to leave the Americas and return home. I think that much more likely is that when they arrived, they chose to stay, or they didn't survive, or perhaps they were even killed on sight. Now, there is a story about Spaniards in the Caribbean who come across a tribe in the Lesser Antilles who have these metal-tipped spear points, and they ask these people, through broken translation, where did you get this metal alloy? And they said that it came from a dark-skinned sailing tribe who came in from the east. Well, going east of there is out into the Atlantic. So perhaps they're talking about a dark-skinned group of people coming from Africa and giving the tribes people, trading with them, this black metal alloy that they called guanine. Well, linguists who specialize in ancient African languages have found a connection here, where on the African west coast, there are tribal civilizations that refer to the same type of metal as guanine. So you have this metal alloy of guanine in tribes among the Lesser Antilles or the Eastern Caribbean, and then in Western Africa along the coastline, you have old tribes there who are referring to guanine. Guanine. Perhaps there's some kind of connection there. But I'm very skeptical as to how prevalent and connected these trade routes actually would have been. Because if the Americas did have a connection with the Old World, well, then you would see all kind of Old World crops arriving in the Americas. And then certainly within the Americas, we have potatoes and corn. You would see that absolutely explode across the Old World. But we just don't see that until after the arrival of Columbus, when the world as a whole is ready to be a global civilization. It's not until that moment that this world market completely explodes. But I certainly think that we have enough evidence to at least infer that there were many, many different cultures that discovered the Americas prior to Columbus. Whether they assimilated or survived, well, that's a mystery. I'm Luke Caverns. If you like more videos covering the history and mysteries of places all around the world, well, please like and subscribe for more.
Go on and go like and subscribe, man. You see how he gave it up? They can't run away from it. They can't run away from it. They can't run away from it. So I guess he's talking about this situation right here. I guess he's talking about this situation right here. So I guess he's talking about this situation right here where he says where the inhabitants were black and dark, or black or dark colored. And that he said he recollected that the natives of Hispaniola had spoken of black men who had once come to their island from the south, the heads of whose javelins were guanin, adulterated gold. So I guess that's what he's talking about right there. So I guess that's what he's talking about right there, right? And this is 1498. This is the discovery of Trinidad and the coast of South America, of them just kind of touching down within that area. They ain't even got to that area yet in the game yet, you know what I'm saying? This is before they get down there to that area. And shout out to Smoke, man. Shout out to Smoke, man, because Smoke was the one that really put me up on this El Negro thing. I ain't know shit about the El Negro thing. Fact though. I ain't know nothing about the El Negro thing until I seen Smoke bring it up one time. And you know what I'm saying? They really couldn't, you know what I'm saying? And then when I brought it up on Sean P and brother Unk was on there, and they was saying that they were saying that El Negro was a damn monkey. That shit was crazy as hell. Hold on. That shit was some crazy shit. I say, damn, these supposed to be these supposed to be the scholars. These supposed to be the dudes. That's you know, them supposed to be the dudes that's you know, that's setting the standards right now on the history of black people in America. You know, if you do come with some type of thought or come with some type of reference or some type of fact, you know what I'm saying, they definitely gonna argue you down for the fact that everybody believe that white people brought black people over here. When there's so much little evidence where black people is already over here way before, just like they say, this is way before the Mayans. And when I seen a little more paintings within that little building down there, that little temple down there, that was 900. So they saying this is way before 900. And then basically saying, well, if they ain't really moving like the Europeans, if they ain't really bringing over no old world foods, and you know what I'm saying, if we ain't really seeing no old world foods, like I guess that was their base of their argument, was like, all right, we don't see no old world foods like we seen when Christopher Columbus and them came. Man, that's like goddamn 700, probably 800 years before what you talking about. We ain't even we just said what 700 or 1492. Yeah, we in the 700. It was probably 1400 years ago, 1500 years ago, 2000 years ago. I mean, don't nobody really know. Like I said, I was just looking at something, and they were saying that, yeah, they got some bones that's going back before the bones in East Africa now. So everything that they ever thought of, now they got to come with new numbers. Folks make it seem like in America that they just found all the bones. They just found every artifact. They found everything. One question that I do have, since they always say, oh yeah, it was a disease epidemic, everybody died. Disease. Where's the mass graves sites? It should be mass grave sites. Where are the mass grave sites at? Put the information out there, please, so I can go peep it out. Where are the mass grave sites for all the diseases everywhere in America, wherever they just came through and just walked around and everybody died? I want to see the mass graves. And I'ma always go back to this, dog. This is right here. I really don't know how they can kind of get around this, dog. I don't know how they can get around this. And niggas was telling me this was a monkey. Brother Unk. I used to look up the Brother Unk. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like, he like a Sinetta Seti, you know what I'm saying, type figure to a nigga. Like, all right, nigga used to fuck with Brother Unk back in the Pan-African days and shit, right? He was one of them niggas that'll argue, that kind of, go against people's points to try to, try to get some clarity on everything, you know what I'm saying? He told me this was a monkey. I say, dang, this is a monkey. They don't even want to acknowledge. But then we have a historian from down in that area saying that, okay. Yeah, it was black people over here. Then they try to show, the little Vikings. You know what I'm saying? They try to show the Vikings to go and, put them in there. But I always thought it was interesting. You know what I'm saying? With the little grenades that I do have. I always thought it was interesting that when I came across this, in the Peter Martyr 8 decades, when Christopher Columbus first touched down, Oh yeah, the link is in the chat. The link is in the chat if anybody wanna come up, chop it up. The link is in the chat. We just heard the historian give it up. And just like I say, the term Indian, Aboriginal, American is for the people that was found in the New World by Europeans. As we see, this is from the first voyage of Christopher Columbus. This is from the first voyage of Christopher Columbus. And the people that he's seeing in the islands is saying that their face, breasts, and hands and the entire body was quite naked and of somewhat brunette tint. A lightweight had a small debate with somebody about brunette. And we all know that brunette means dark brown. We all know that brunette means a dark color, a dark brown color. And they kept arguing. They kept arguing that they talking about their hair. They kept arguing me down that they was talking about their hair. And it still go to the fact that even when Verrazano in 1524, what this is, before 1490, so this what this 1492, so we just 30 years out. You got Verrazano saying they're black unlike the Ethiopians in the Carolinas. So if you go south, I'm pretty sure they're going to be more darker people, more Negroid type looking people within those areas, because Negroids is the only ones that get that color. The only ones that get that color. You know, they always try to run to, well, what about India? What about India? And then that's when I run to show me in 2025 the dark brown Indians in America, in North America. And every time I see the people, it's the same tint as the Europeans. So I never can add that up. When we got historical eyewitnesses saying that the people is somewhat brunette tint. And then I just heard a debate. Here recently. That about blacks being in America before 1492. And just like I was talking about Christopher Columbus and the islands, and it came across people that was brunette tint. But somebody had brought up this source from the Christopher Columbus Journal, in which, before we even get to this, I just want to put a notice out for the Christopher Columbus Journal. So we're gonna read it. Is a diary, a log book written by Christopher Columbus about his first voyage, the journal covers events from the 3rd of August, 1492, when Columbus departed from Palos, to the 15th of March, 1493, and includes all prolonged addressing the sovereigns. Several contemporary references conf- confirm Columbus kept a journal of his voyage as a daily record of events and as evidence for the Catholic monarchs. Upon his return to Spain in the spring of 1493, Columbus presented the journal to Isabella. She had it copied, retained the original, and gave the copy to Columbus before his second voyage. The whereabouts of the original have been unknown since 1504. This is before they got control of Cuba. Settled in. This is before they set up shop in Cuba. 7 years before they set up shop in Cuba. If we look at the records from the first Blacks in America.com, 1504, I don't even think that is fucking, that they said documented, since they say everything is always documented. 20 so-called blacks that they said that they brought over. You know what I'm saying? Just 20. That's pushing it. This is their documents. But he had used the source from the Christopher Columbus Journal, which we just seen that the whereabouts of the original have been unknown since 1504. And the pinpoint of his argument was Christopher Columbus described the Native Americans he encountered as the color of the Canarians, neither black nor white. Neither black nor white, which we just seen. Brunette. It's another one that's saying tawny. It's a lot of different descriptions. But I just thought that the neither black nor white, I just found that kind of crazy, because when I come across the first book that was written, about the Canaries, and the man that wrote it was a Jesuit. So he may be backdooring. He may be goofy. You know what I'm saying? He may be goofy, but we're going to look at it. He says, that my own is that the Guanche, which is the Canary Island people, derive from their descendants from Africans. This is his description. He lived over there in the Canary Islands before he came to the Americas, and he ended up in Ecuador with the Maroons in Ecuador, and he was writing back to the king for the Maroons in Ecuador, kind of like they, talking about their liberties and all that old type of stuff, you know what I'm saying? But this how he gave it up, just on the description. So that's why I'm saying that, okay, yeah, when he came over here to the islands, he just seen some light-skinned niggas. That's it. Because when we come here, So they're talking about the people on the south of the island are rather a brown color, either from inheritance, which they said is the Africans, or from the hot climate. Their skins being toasted by the sun as they go about nearly naked. But then they do say right here, you know what I'm saying? But on the north side, they are white, and the women are beautiful and rosy with long hair. And this book came out in the 1600s. Or the publishing or the writing, whatever, in the 1600s, early 1600s. And I just find it that they saying that the niggas is damn near black and white within the island. But then when you go to the Christopher Columbus Journal, that's the whereabouts of the original have not been unknown since 1504. But then people use, you know what I'm saying, this is they go-to is to go to the journal, and it says that the color of the canaries were neither black nor white. Neither black nor white. But the whereabouts of the original have been unknown since 1504. But we got a description of the Canary Island people from somebody that lived over there with them, to say that the Guanche derived from their descendants from Africans. So when Christopher Columbus came through, all he seen was people that looked like Africans. And then it don't stop there. And then it don't stop there for the fact that hold on. And then it don't stop there from the fact that, just like I always put this in the game, boy, this is just almost like El Negro. They can't get around this. It's almost like El Negro. And just like the dude try to justify, even though he looking dead at a black person, they try to justify that that's not a black person. That the black people wasn't over here in America before the Europeans. But we got page 286. Don't never forget. 286. Don't never forget. Don't never forget. They talking about FBA started 1526. No. 1513, baby. Shit, really? Shit, goddamn. Soon as the nigga touched down. When the nigga described them as the Canaries. When a nigga described them as the Canaries, as soon as the nigga touched down. But if a nigga really just want to be like, yeah, them is certified. 1513. 1513 was a great year in America. Yeah, we're gonna make America great again. That's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna make America great again. Gonna put it right in their face. Ha ha, I'ma smile in your face while I kick on back and feel the bass. it say? Once again, the Spaniards found Negroes. Now they try to put the slave on there because automatically, like I always point out and been pointing out within the game, during that time, if you black, you a slave off the top if you wasn't vetted. What I mean being vetted is that you done been washed through their system. You know what I'm saying? You're a Ladino. You tapped in through the culture. hmm But it got, but it also got a lot to do with religion. It also got a lot to do with that because that's why they kind of respect them more because they done converted over. They not worshiping pagans. You know what I'm saying? So that played a big part in enslaving the folks and automatically looking at the folks like that. You know what I'm saying? So don't get discouraged when you see the little Negro slave. That don't no. Don't mean nothing. That's just a title, but they still can't get away from the fact that they found the niggas over here. You get a nigga whatever title you want to get, nigga. These where the niggas was found at, and they tried to come up with some type of justification of why they over here. But it says that it's a thought. Keep that in mind, a thought. But the fact is, we still gotta stay with the fact that they was found. We still gotta stay with the fact, but they say it is a thought that the Negro pirates of Ethiopia established themselves after a wreck. They got another shipwreck of their ships in these mountains. The natives of Kurica carried on incest wars with these Negroes, regular wars with these Negroes, and massacre of slavery is the alternate fortune of the two people. The El Negro people, huh? Is this the El Negro peoples? The people that they trying to justify? Now are they saying that it was pirates? Are they saying that black people was in the sea? Are they saying that black people was? Can we see it right here in the game, in history, that black people was in the waters? Now I'm gonna give it up. Now I'm gonna give it up for the fact. I got to give it up for the fact that we gotta stay with the fact that they was found. I gotta stay with the fact that they was found. And it's an automatic. This is where you see the stolen identity. Is this the first instance of stolen identity? It got to be the first instance of stolen identity where you find people in the new world and you say that the terms for the people in the new world is Indian, Aboriginal, or American. But when you find these people over here, these people get excluded from those terms. And that's what I'm tripping on. And I always gotta pull up and roll up to that one because I just can't get over the fact that ain't nobody pointed that out, or still can't get over the fact that it's that much hate. It's that much hate towards the black people, where we just get excluded, even though it's a fact that black people was found over here. And these are the Maroons. Come on, man. This is crazy. So they got mislabeled with the Ethiopian off top. They got mislabeled as a slave off top. And because of the get down in wars, the fights, and folks probably retreated. Now they the Maroons, now they the Runaways. Different terms. The same people, though. El Negro people, huh? Way before the Mayans. And I'ma still stand on the fact for the Mayans that those are black people, because when you look at that temple, I gotta learn how to say that temple, because that's another dagger that I really don't see how they can really get over that. And when you really get the backstory on how they kind of popped out in the game, it really make it certified, because they tried to hide that. They tried to destroy it. It's a lot of other places down there that done got destroyed by these Spaniards, because I'm going to point this out in this one book. You know what I'm saying? I just ain't brought it out yet, but I'm going to point it out in this one book where there's a lot of game within this book. So I just ain't gonna just show it right now, but where the Jesuits was going into the temples within the Mayas and all them areas, Central America, and discovering who they was and what was going on, and was destroying it off the top. So it's many more buildings that have been destroyed, and many more memorials and monuments that was destroyed by the Spaniards early in the game. That's a fact, though. And it ain't nothing but El Negro peoples, right? That's what make it so crazy. Hey, but it don't stop here, because there's two more sources talking about the same damn thing. There's two more sources talking about the same damn thing. How that happened? How two different walks of life come through? Shedding light on the game. And pull up, roll up. I'm so glad that you showed up to comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend, and tell a friend. And do it again. In the game. In a certain place called Quirica, same place. They just tried to spell it different. Found Negroes with curled hair, curly, curly hair. They just had curls. They had that good hair, huh? Fam, right before Bad Boy, I told you right before he seen the South Sea on the 25th day of the month, he had to go through the niggas. I don't stop there. It don't stop there. Hold on. That's the same thing. It's the same thing. Hold on. Hold up. Hold up. Pull up. Roll up. I'm so glad that you showed up to comment, like, subscribe, tell a friend, and do it again. Hold on, man. Hold on, man. Hold up. Man, hold up.
But in the end he died fighting with others, and 600 of his own. The others fled at a faster pace, thinking that the guns were thunder, and the balls were lightning, and frightened to see so many dead in such a short time, and the bodies some without arms, others without legs, others cleft in the middle, with fierce slashes. In this battle a brother of Torcha was taken prisoner in the royal habit of a woman, not only in his costume, but in everything else, except in giving birth, was a woman. Carrot bra. Olboa entered Corica, he found neither bread nor gold, which had been raised before fighting. However, he found and some black slaves of the Lord. He asked where they came from, and they could tell him or understand no more than that there were men of that color near there, with whom they had a very ordinary war. These were the first blacks that were seen in the Indies, and I still think that they have not.
A very ordinary war. A very ordinary war. I'ma laugh in your face while I kick on back and feel the bass. Ha 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 ha. 3 in a row. Yeah. And also, instead of calling them Ethiopians this time, they call them Guineas. Oh, how this ain't New Guinea over here, though? Huh? Just a lot of mislabeling going on for the people that's found. It's a lot of mislabeling going on for the people that's found. Or am I tripping? They say I'm tripping. I say, dang. Hold on, I ain't tripping. I know I ain't tripping. Why they doing this? What type of behavior is this? What type of behavior is this? Is it that much hate for the black man? Is it that much hate for the black man in America? Hey man, shout out to all my FBAs, man. Pull up, roll up, man. Do you? I'm just bringing it to the table. Let's weigh it up. I'm just bringing it to the table. Let's weigh it up. It's looking trail to me. It's looking trail to me. Oh yeah, another thing. No, hold on. Hold on. There was something else that was crazy in the game. Hold on. There was something else that was real crazy in the game. I need to put that in the game for sure. Yeah. I'm gonna put this in the game for sure. Yeah, we're gonna put this one in the game. Put me in the game, coach. Put me in the game, coach. This right here is for the Grand Slam. I done got 3 on the base. I done got 3 on the base for sure. Or come debunk it. Yeah, come get them up out of there. Please come get them up out of there. Please. Please come get my people off the base. I told you I'm gonna sit back and laugh in your face. Ha 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 ha. While I kick on back and feel the bass. Hit the link. Get him up out of there before I hit this Grand Slam. Get him up out of there before I hit this Grand Slam. Oh, ain't no outs. Finna get on my Ken Griffey shit. Let's go.
It is less than it grows in some parts and does not grow in others, and thus, it is pointless to discuss it. The account I carry regarding the leagues and degrees follows the maps of the king's cosmographers, and they do not receive or record any pilot's account without an oath and witnesses. I also want to mention how there are many other islands and lands in the roundness of the world, apart from the ones we have named, one of which is the land of the Strait of Magellan, facing east, which, according to its layout, is very large and deeply connected to the South Pole. They believe that on one side it leads toward the Cape of Good Hope and on the other toward the Moluccas. The ships of the Viceroy Don Antonio de Mendoza encountered a land of black people that stretched 500 leagues, and they thought it continued with that of the aforementioned strait. Thus, the true extent of the land is not yet
500 leagues? $500 leagues. Boy, you know how long that is, boy? You know how long 500 leagues is? Do you know how long 500 leagues is? Why they saying this? Oh yeah, this 1550. This is 1550. 1550, right? This is on the west side of. This is on the west side. This is on the west side of South America. Hmm? The man is coming from Mexico. Going to Peru. 500 leagues. It's 1,500 miles, boy. King John Ward coming through, drop top. What it do? What it do? Yeah, I just got this Grand Slam off. Doing it. Man, softball. You niggas, this ain't even hard ball. Softball league. Softball league. $15.50. You know, a Perizano didn't really get at in Cuba like that until what? 30 something, 1536. Oh, they said, oh no, them was all runaways. Man, let me bring that back real quick one time for the one time, man. Pull up, roll up. I'm so glad that you showed up to comment, like, subscribe. Tell a friend and do it again.
It is less than it grows in some parts and does not grow in others, and thus, it is pointless to discuss it. The account I carry regarding the leagues and degrees follows the maps of the king's cosmographers, and they do not receive or record any pilot's account without an oath and witnesses. I also want to mention how there are many other islands and lands in the roundness of the world, apart from the ones we have named, one of which is the land of the Strait of Magellan, facing east, which, according to its layout, is very large and deeply connected to the South Pole. They believe that on one side it leads toward the Cape of Good Hope and on the other toward the Moluccas. The ships of the Viceroy Don Antonio de Mendoza encountered a land of black people that stretched 500 leagues, and they thought it continued with that of the aforementioned strait.
Ha ha. Ha ha. Laugh in your face while I kick on back and feel the bass. Yeah, man. I'm just putting pieces together, man. I'm just putting pieces together, man. Seeing what's out there, man. Seeing what's out there, and hey, yo, you see that? Another classic build. Another classic build for the 2025. Definitely hit the link. See what it do. But definitely pull up, roll up.
It's just completely a mystery. One of the most thought-provoking artifacts I found while in the Olmec heartland was the El Negro monument on display at the Tres Zapotes Museum. This megalithic tenon head looks unambiguously African, and I'm very slow to ever say that the Olmec heads look like they're African because I've seen so many people in the Olmec realm who look exactly like the Olmec heads. But El Negro really stands out and fits its name. Now, I'm always very dubious, and I cast a weary eye on theories about pre-Columbian contact between the Americas and the old world civilizations, especially when it involves contact back and forth. However, I'm very, very open to the idea of many, many different cultures discovering the Americas prior to Columbus. I think that this was something that was happening all the time, and every so often we get just a slight window into this evidence. And I'm open-minded about the fact that this El Negro monument perhaps is evidence of ancient Africans stumbling into the Americas and being introduced into Olmec society. And perhaps this is, for lack of a better term, a cameo of ancient Africans in the Olmec realm. But when it comes to people arriving in the Americas, I'm very dubious as to whether or not they were able to leave the Americas and return home. I think that much more likely is that when they arrived, they chose to stay, or they didn't survive, or perhaps they were even killed on sight. Now, there is a story about Spaniards in the Caribbean who come across a tribe in the Lesser Antilles who have these metal-tipped spear points, and they ask these people through broken translation, where did you get this metal alloy? And they said that it came from a dark-skinned sailing tribe who came in from the east. Well, going east of there is out into the Atlantic. So perhaps they're talking about a dark-skinned group of people coming from Africa and giving the tribes people, trading with them, this black metal alloy that they called guanine. Well, linguists who specialize in ancient African languages have found a connection here where on the African west coast, there are tribal civilizations that refer to the same type of metal as guanine. So you have this metal alloy of guanine in tribes among the Lesser Antilles or the Eastern Caribbean, and then in Western Africa along the coastline, you have old tribes there who are referring to guanine. Guanine, guanine. Perhaps there's some kind of connection there. But I'm very skeptical as to how prevalent and connected these trade routes actually would have been. Because if the Americas did have a connection with the old world, well, then you would see all kind of old world crops arriving in the Americas. And then certainly within the Americas, we have potatoes and corn. You would see that absolutely explode across the old world. But we just don't see that until after the arrival of Columbus, when the world as a whole is ready to be a global civilization. It's not until that moment that this world market completely explodes. But I certainly think that we have enough evidence to at least infer that there were many, many different cultures that discovered the Americas prior to Columbus. Whether they assimilated or survived, well, that's a mystery. I'm Luke Caverns. If you'd like more videos covering the history and mysteries of places all around the world,
Where's the other evidence? Where's the other evidence? Oh, yeah, I got it right here. Hold on. Hold up. Man, hold up. Man, hold up. Yeah, we can't leave out the fact that the natives just know that there's some black people that live over there, and we got regular wars with them. Regular. Yeah, and also down there about Peru is 500 leagues of niggas. Nigga, that's from the east, nigga, to New York City. You talking about? They say, nah, you tripping when you pulling up and rolling up. I say, nah, I ain't tripping when I'm pulling up and rolling up. I'm reading between the lines. I'm just reading between the lines. I'm just reading between the lines. I'm just reading between the lines.
They are the Indians of Darien and of the entire coast of the Gulf of Uraba and Nombre de Dios, of a color between tawny and yellow, although, as I said, black ones like those from Guinea were found in Quirica. They have a good stature, few beards and hair, aside from that on their heads and eyebrows.
Man, what?
They are the Indians of Darien and of the entire coast of the Gulf of Uraba and Nombre de Dios, of a color between tawny and yellow, although, as I said, black ones like those from Guinea were found in Quirica. They have a good stature, few beards and hair, aside from that on their heads and eyebrows.
Haha, I'ma laugh in your face while I kick on back and feel the bass. What's the term for the people that's found in America by Europeans? I believe it's Indian, Aboriginal, and Americans. But I went the ones that was tripping, went to war, didn't want to go to work, wanted to do his own thing. They put a label on them called Maroons. I guess that might have been the same term that they go around, how they put certain terms out there for specific certain, the bad people. Not the good ones. Yeah, Seminole Nation. Yeah. But I'm pushing that multi-maroon American MMA Vino. What it do, what it do, what it do.
Like heads.
Hey, for the fact though, long live El Negro. For the fact though, straight up.